If my memory serves me well, more of 1992 than 2002, when the mantra was Moi must go. 2002, the mantra that seems to come to my memory is yote yawezekana bila Moi. That Moi was going in 2002. But there's Moism, which Uhuru Kenyatta was supposed to continue to perpetuate. That in Uhuru Kenyatta, Moi saw himself succeeding himself, that there's a system, and that system goes on. And in 2001, when Raila Odinga's NDP was seeking a merger with KANU, and they were asking for certain positions and benefits out of that arrangement, Moi told them bluntly, KANU iko na wenyewe. So in Uhuru Kenyatta, there's one of the wenyewes. Even in Mwai Kibaki, 2002 was a turning point for history in this country, when history did not turn. The system continued, and that system still continues. Do I see any change coming in 2022? I doubt that any fundamental change will come in 2002. Because we are talking about a system that is very deeply entrenched, to the extent that a former head of public service has got the courage to come on national TV and he tells this country, it doesn't matter what you do, there's the deep state, and the deep state will decide how it turns out. That the deep state will have its interests, it will have its candidate, and it will have its decision, and that they will be there even in the polling stations. Remember that this is a person who was head of the public service at a time when a certain election was held and a certain outcome came out of that election. So, at the very best, I think the system can be disrupted. William Ruto looks like he could disrupt it, but I don't think he could bring about the change. But the system must be disrupted before any change can follow. And I don't think 2022 is going to be the year of change. It can at the very best be the year of disruption. That propaganda is about organized information and how it is disseminated. There's nothing inherently good or bad about propaganda. So there's white propaganda, there's dark propaganda, and I think that what you're asking about is dark propaganda, where people create situations, make believe, and they spread that kind of info. If you were to look at that within the Kenyan context, therefore, you must go all the way back to the pre-independence period. You must look at the struggle for independence. You must look at the fears that came with the formation of political parties, where there was a fear that certain tribes were going to dominate others, where there was propaganda that only certain tribes had fought for freedom. And that kind of propaganda you still hear even today. People saying we are the ones who fought for independence. And it shapes not just the politics, it shapes and informs economic dominance. Then after that, you will see the propaganda to the effect that if there is political pluralism, there will be disunity in the country, and which is an effort to create a political monolith and hegemony through the KANU party in the mid-1960s, and therefore the country becoming a de facto one-party state. There's the propaganda after that in subsequent years to the effect that there are people whom President Moi and KANU used to call disgruntled elements. You always felt as if the country was about to be attacked by some foreigners. They used to say there are people in the country who are agents of foreigners. What was your tosheka? And that only helped to entrench the one-party regime. Before that one-party regime, there's propaganda to the effect that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga is trying to sell the country to the communists, and a cache of military equipment is found in the country. It's actually supposed to be crossing to Uganda in 1965, and they say it is the vice president who wants to use it to overthrow the government of President Kenyatta. Later on, the Ugandan government under President Milton Obote is caused to apologize to Kenya and to Jaramogi because it had nothing to do with him. There's propaganda in the Moi years that a certain man called Brigadier Odongo has been trained in the Mount Elgon region, and he wants to overthrow the government. There are people like Koigi wa Wamwere, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Ngodhe wa Kariuki, George Anyona, who are also demonized in that context. There are people whom Attorney General Charles Njonjo calls the Six Bearded Sisters. Now, the propaganda, therefore, in this country has been used to generate fear and to manage and control people. You can just boil it down to the element of creation of fear, management, and control. You can see the same generation of fear in the 2002 elections, for example, where you are hearing this thing of 41 against 1, and this propaganda that is built around this one tribe that is being accused of being dominant. But within that tribe, there's also the propaganda to the effect that they want to take away everything from us, once again creating fear to manage and control. In more recent times, you have seen in the mountain region fear about Raila Odinga. He is cast in traumatic imagery. People being told he's going to make you to crawl and get before him on your knees. Your property is going to be taken away. You are going to be made to wear shorts and khaki ones at that. He's a mganga. Such like things. That way, therefore, we have used propaganda in this country to create fear. Around Deputy President William Ruto today, you have seen that when he has come up with what he proposes to be an economic model of political economy, he has not had the opportunity to explain it. Someone picks it up and says, oh, he's dividing the rich against the poor. He wants to cause a class war. So it's always about fear and more fear that Ruto is ahead. He's ahead of Raila. He's ahead of the One Kenya alliance because he is acting and they are reacting. In the management of information, particularly public information and communications, you act and let other people react. Because when you act, you set the agenda and the other people respond to that agenda. Ruto began quite early, and he began at a time when he was ensconced with President Uhuru Kenyatta in a comfortable corner. He was talking about hustling himself as a hustler and talking about a hustler nation already 8-9 years ago. And it did not seem to be an issue. They all referred to him as the hustler. And before they knew what was happening, he was telling the rest of the people who labor and toil during the day and at night that you are also hustlers, and that the next government we are going to form is going to be the government of hustlers. And so everybody else is now trying to run after him to overthrow the hustler narrative. And the more they attempt that, the more entrenched it becomes. The more entrenched in the sense that even those who did not know that the wheelbarrow is supposed to signify something, they hear about it for the first time from Raila Odinga. They hear for the first time about it from Salia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, from Kalonzo Musyoka. And they start saying, hey, wait a minute, what is happening here? And when they hear things like, oh, he wants to start a fight against the rich and the poor, people start asking, wait, are there some people who are rich? Yes. Are there some people who are poor? Yes. Do I feel like when the economy is growing and I'm told it has grown in my pocket? No. So they are helping him to stay light years ahead. They are also demonstrating that they do not seem to have an agenda of their own that they could position before the public, except the agenda of reacting against Ruto's agenda. It is something that they must seek to address. Mudavadi, for example, talks about the economy. It's a good starting point. But after he has gone beyond the word, the economy, the expression, the economy, he doesn't seem to have a new one. So he says it's the economy, and the economy. People will want to know whose economy? What kind of economy? Where do I fit into that economy? And that is what the One Kenya Alliance need to be addressing, what Raila Odinga needs to be addressing, and in language that the common person can understand. What Ruto has done is to simplify this thing, maybe even to oversimplify it, and tell the ordinary fellow that when they say uchumi umekua, the economy has grown, have you felt it growing in your house? Have you felt it growing in your pocket? When they say we want to amend the constitution, he singles out one thing which he runs away with, and runs away with very effectively, that they want to create jobs for themselves. Where are you in this equation? That is very beautiful propaganda, and it's working, because he's telling the citizens, wait, before we change the constitution to create jobs for these people, we must change the economy to create inclusion for you. Huh? That this is what I mean by my bottom-up approach, that we must start with the people at the bottom and move to the people at the top. And because they have not prepared themselves with an alternative message that they should position so that Ruto also reacts. They are using his message to try and overrun him. But as they do so, they only build him. It is important that this question is correctly premised. I have worked closely with Raila Odinga. In fact, if there's any politician I have worked for and who has paid me, and paid me handsomely, it's Raila Odinga. All the others are matters of conjecture. I worked with Musalia Mudavadi for free. Yeah, he didn't pay me. I explored the possibility of working with William Ruto, but it remained at the exploratory stage for reasons I need not go into. Raila and Ruto are typecast. They are very similar. They both think very quickly. Before they come to any session, what I have seen of them is that they have already thought through what they want in the direction that they want to go. I think they are also very widely networked across the country, unlike the rest of the people in the competition. They can go anywhere in the country and their networks are there. The difference between them now is that Ruto has got the agility and the verve of youth that Raila does not have. Ruto is easily where Raila was in the early 90s, but with more seasoning, with more experience that Raila did not have when he was of Ruto's age. He has got the energy to run around. And I think when the real competitive season comes, Ruto could run Raila out of even just physical and emotional energy, which is a very major asset in these things. Both of them are endowed, I think, with resources. When two politicians at that level are getting into a situation where it is very clear that the competition is between the two of them, don't be cheated. Even the so-called deep state works with both of them because they do not know who of them is going to win. The commercial interests work with both of them. There are people who will be sponsoring Ruto and they are sponsoring Raila at the same time. What they want is that in the end, they are part of the future. So there are so many similarities between the two. Both of them worked with Moi at some point. Both of them opposed him at some point. And both of them worked with him again after opposing him at some point. Both of them are students of the KANU regime. They have been in KANU. They have also worked together in ODM. They understand one another so well. Both of them are rebellious. They are rebels. Odinga is a rebel. Ruto is a rebel. Both of them are straight shooting. They tell you what they think as it is. And I think that in the end, it's just how much staying power that is going to make the difference. Every political information, howsoever it is organized, is propaganda. That political parties, for example, are expected to prepare party manifestos and party propaganda, which is organized information that you then put across to the electorate to help to endear yourself with that electorate. And then there's counter propaganda. The other people come up with theirs. And it's only the objective of that propaganda that will enable us to classify it as either white propaganda within the idiom of Walter Lippmann. Walter Lippmann was easily the foremost communications scholar and practitioner of the past, shall we say, 100 years. And he wrote a very good book on propaganda, which remains very influential today. And he has drawn a very clear distinction between white propaganda and dark propaganda. So all of these things are propaganda, and you have the propagandists who will always stand on the rooftops, like the propagandist called Comrade Squiller in George Orwell's fable Animal Farm. The propagandists assume that everybody else has got nothing in the box between their ears. They assume that that box in your head is an empty one, and they can fill it with whatever it is they want for their benefit. And most of the time we behave uncritically also. So we become like empty slates on which the propagandists perform. Yeah? That makes it very easy for them. We say, Baba amesoma, there's no need for me to read it. Baba says it's good, or Baba says it's bad. And I use Baba here only figuratively, because all these formations have got their own Babas.
Propaganda is a hustler nation narrative. Exploratory. Okay, of course I'm asking in terms of politics.
Absolutely, I'm not.
You
You
know
said I
where?
must be.
You know where?
You gave him the opportunity to go and study. Yeah. I'm not a very bad person.